This is the hottest station in the nation. Proudly ZFM Stereo.
The Y Zone, where we talk about life and rights.
Good evening and welcome to the Y Zone, the show for the youth and the young at heart with me, your host, Brian Malvin Casey Twalde. An investment in knowledge pays the best interest. These are the words of Benjamin Franklin. From the 26th to the 30th of April of 2021, the whole world came together to celebrate the Global Action Week of Education, also known as GAWE. The theme for this year being education financing. I am joined by Mr. Naison Bunu, who is the National Coordinator of the Zimbabwe Network of Early Childhood Development Actors, ZENEGDA, as well as Tendai Nyamajiwa from the same organization. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Great, it's good to have you and it's good to be having this discussion, which I feel is key when it comes to, the way we move, the way we progress, because education puts everything together. Before we talk about education financing, let's start to understand what ZENEGDA is. Mr. Bunu, what is ZENEGDA all about?
ZENEGDA is a membership organization which consists of different actors focused on the development of children from pregnancy up to 8 years.
Okay.
That means in all the various aspects, be it education, be it health, be it child protection or child safeguarding, be it nutrition, all to do with that, their security and all.
So it's not just about ECD the way we think about my ECD, ECDB. It's beyond that.
It's beyond that. That is only when it comes to the learning part of it.
Ah, okay.
And that responsibility, I think, as we have said, the actors are also from those areas.
Mm-hmm.
Be they academic, be they practitioners, be they caregivers, be they policymakers, they are also part of the actors within that.
All right.
And our main focus as such is one, in terms of focusing on the children for that range, I'll say pregnancy to 8 years, but mainly focusing on policy advocacy for ECD, focusing on building the capacity of those who support the children in that respect. That means the caregivers, the policymakers, the teachers, the health workers, child safeguarding people in that arena, and also have research or knowledge generated and shared, and through the various networks that we go, and through building the networks and the partnerships in order to enhance and have the best interest of the children at heart, as espoused in the children, in the Convention on the Rights of Children, but also in the protocol such as in the AU Continental Education Strategy Plan for up to 25 or the agenda up to 2050.
Okay.
Yes.
And Tendai, what are some of the programs that ZENEGDA is working on? We've got educational programs like you said, nutrition and all that. What are some of your key programs that you are seized with as an organization?
So some of the key programs that we're working on right now has to do with us influencing policy in terms of early childhood development and how our various key decision makers prioritize ECD in their decision making processes. One of the key programs that we've been working on is the School Readiness Initiative, which is being funded by Roger Federer Foundation. So in this we are working with members of parliament, with key people that are working within the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education, and also influencing the processes that are happening within the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Social Welfare and Local Governance, because you understand with ECD so many of its facets are within several ministries that have to do with early childhood development. So we're working to have them build their capacity in understanding what early childhood development entails. So when they understand what it means from the ground up, then they can be able to make decisions that then influence what we do when it comes to the budget within the national budget distribution. ECD has to be prioritized. And even when you go to the Ministry of Health, what does it say? Is the mother's maternal health being prioritized in terms of resources that are being distributed towards that?
Although we do policy advocacy at national level, it is also decentralized because we've got members in the 10 provinces.
Oh yeah, I was about to ask that actually to find out how well you're doing in terms of reach. So please go ahead.
And we've got more than 200 members who are in the 10 provinces. Through those organizations, we are seen on the ground in terms of implementation and practices that need to be done is with focus on the children. And that's what I wanted actually to focus on. that at the ground level, yes, we are there. We do also subnational advocacy
Okay.
at provincial and district level.
So your programs are tailor-made to suit the needs of the specific area.
Yes, and you'll find that even our membership, some are in nutrition, some are in child safeguarding, some are in education, some are in specific health. That is done at various levels, from grassroots up to national level and beyond, because
Okay.
we are also working in the region. I think she will be explaining more about the regional projects.
Some of the networks that you have at a regional level, right? So you have an influence out of the country. That is good. But let's get to the topic of the day. I'm sure the other issues will also come in as they dovetail with the subject of our discussion, which is the Global Week that we talked about in the beginning of the show. So what is the Global Week for Education? What is this all about, Tendai?
So the Global Action Week for Education has to do with the mandate that we have to prioritize education financing, as the theme says for this year, that it is important for domestic financing to be looking into education and to be prioritizing education. We come together as part of civil society, as part of the global society, to say we need to prioritize education in our domestic financing, and the country, as it crafts its national budgets, it has to prioritize financing education. Our context is not really favorable when it comes to the benchmarks that have been set on the global arena to say that we need at least 20%, is it, Mr. Bono? 20% of our GDP,
National
the national
budget.
budget, to be prioritizing education. So you see with our budgeting that at least this year is now at what, at 13%? Yes. So you see that.
Is this progressive? Where is this coming from? We're at 13%. Where were we last year, Mr. Bono?
Yes, I think if we go back to 2015, 2016, we'll find that the Zimbabwe education budget compared to the national budget was around 22%,
Okay.
which was above the threshold which had been agreed upon in the Education for All campaign. But as we went down, beginning I think 2018, 2019, we've been falling down from that 22% to 18 to 16 and to 13 and 12. Last year it was about 12, showing that there is a slide in the education budget in terms of the national budget. But worse is that in real terms, the education budget has been going down. And if you are comparing for 2020 and 2021 national budget, you will find that it was $1 billion in terms of US last year in 2020. But this year, I think it was almost a half to 550 something.
Is this still in USD terms, or we're not talking of the Zim dollar?
In USD terms.
Okay.
But if we are speaking in terms of Zim dollar terms, yes, you think that there's a great increase in that.
Okay.
Yet in the real terms,
The value.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, please go on, Tendai, with.
So you notice that even when you're speaking of less prioritization to the education sector as a whole, when we go down to our priority area as NEGDA, as ECD actors, you'd notice that there is less prioritization for early childhood development.
Okay, so we're saying that education generally is receiving less.
Yes.
And ECD is even getting a smaller piece of the cake
It's
that is
even
coming to
getting-
everyone, right?
Can I explain more of that? You will find out that ECD was receiving some attention from 2015 up to about 2018, where it was going up to about 28% of the
Education budget.
budget.
Right.
But from when the Honorable Minister of Finance announced, I think for the 2019 budget, that the ECD budget was the responsibility of communities and the parents. From that on, towards 2019 to 2021, that budget for infant education, which is from ECD-A to grade 2, has been sliding. In terms of the education program, infant, it has been going down from about 26.7 in 2018 to about now 14.6 in 2021. You can see also the slide which is going. What it's a policy decision and which was made and which is also being translated and seen in the education financing, despite the global agreement and also which our government agrees that ECD or foundational education is very important. As you receive, for every dollar invested, you reap back almost like $15 to $17 per investment, and that you also have less deviant behavior, less employed people, and the economy will grow. Despite all that knowledge, it's not being translated into supporting it in terms of resources, be they teachers, be they the dollar, be it the infrastructure, be all other services.
I do get you that when you look at your main priority area, which is the ECD, there is that mismatch. There isn't much support coming through. But I would also want us to look at it from a general perspective for a moment, Tindai. Let's talk about the priorities in terms of our education. Do you think that the financing that we're getting is looking at priorities, for instance, infrastructure development and all that? How much is being given towards education when it comes to budget priorities?
So you notice that with the Ministry of Primary and Secondary budgeting process, they have put it in categories to say this tranche is for schools development, this is for the employment cost and all. So you notice with that the distribution has been going towards employment cost mostly, and this is to the detriment of everything else that falls under schools development, the learning itself, the learning material and things like that, which are more important when we're speaking to the overall well-being and success of education within that framework. With ECD, you'd need specialized learning and equipment. The play area, the learning area is different from the grade 1
General,
class, the
right.
grade 7 class.
Right.
So it needs more resources, yet you see that when you look at the categorized budget, you see that more is going towards employment costs, which is an important tranche, yes, but then it's not all in all.
It's not the whole thing,
It's not
right?
the-
Yes,
the-
you have the
the-
teacher, but you don't have playgrounds,
Yes.
like you're saying. Apana ma blocks, chichi rekutambisa. Mr. Bunu, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I think government moved in the correct pathway. Last year, when it had reduced perhaps the salary bill about 43%, although it also created other problems in terms of teacher incapacitation. But that move was the correct one. If it was done together with enough teacher salaries and benefit support, it was going to be a good thing. But the issue is that even apart from that, that could not be met, mainly because of the demand which were required for the salary. And so that when policy decisions are made, they need also to consider other areas that they are still very important.
Right.
In terms of that, school improvement is not receiving much in terms of that. And the salaries, I think, as of last year, had gone to about 73%, which was good, as compared to other periods where salaries were taking between 92 to 98%. And this is moving in the right direction. But as such, like what Tendai was saying, there isn't much focus on the foundational aspect of ECD, and for it to be recognized as different from the grade and secondary classes, because these need specific, and the allocation, if you look into the National Education Statistics book, it shows that in the ECD, one classroom is holding about 4 classes.
Okay.
One classroom is holding about
4 classes when it comes to our student-teacher ratio, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Unlike perhaps in the secondary and also in the primary, where it's almost the recommended figures of about 1:38 and 1:2. About 42.
So what's the best when it comes to student-teacher ratio for an ECD class?
The recommended one by the ministry is the best, which is 1 is to 20.
Okay.
Both in terms of 20 children in one classroom.
In one classroom.
And 20 pupils being taught
By one teacher, right?
But when it comes also to that teacher, you will find that each teacher at ECD level is being taking 2 classes. But even when it comes to the training, that almost about 60% of the ECD children are being taught by teachers. But it's not all ECD trained. Some are.
Okay. So it could be a teacher who's just teacher who just went through the general training without necessarily focusing on ECD.
Yes.
So they don't know how to deal with this student.
They will have some knowledge.
Some basics.
Some basics as teachers who have gone through that training of teachers, but not very specific to ECD. And you have got also even their teachers in charge who are for ECDA to grade 2,
Right.
who mostly are grade 1 to 2 trained.
Right.
And when it comes to supervising them, and then they've got challenges here and there. But apart from that, there are a lot of trained ECD teachers who are out there but not employed.
Not employed, right? So that's one thing that you've mentioned. So we have a class deficit pretty much, right? Because we're having 2 classes. We also have a teacher deficit. But like you've mentioned that there are a lot of trained ECD teachers. Most of our teacher training colleges now have special programs for ECD teachers. So where is the mismatch? Is it that these teachers are not getting hired? Is it our financing? Where are we going wrong, Mr. Buni?
I think it boils down to the finance. The Ministry of Primary and Secondary, I'm not their spokesperson.
Right, rightfully so. But I'm sure you have some. You have observed something as an
yes,
actor.
they would want their children to have qualified teachers. But I think it's also from the Ministry of Public Service, which has got a quota given to the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education. But it's also limited because of the budget which is given to the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education for the teacher salaries, which is not enough for them. And I think that has also been the issue. And that's why some, including myself, have been lobbying that the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education should be given a budget to do with the school support minus the salaries.
Okay.
So that they focus on their core business.
So probably our budget for salaries should go to the parent ministry, to maybe public service,
Yes.
right? And then education just focuses on capacity. So my question to you is, I'm sure we can agree that the fiscus, the national budget is never enough. If you go to any department, they will tell you, Mara is kukwana. Are we saying education financing is the responsibility of government only? Are they the only player who should be ensuring that ECD gets all the capacity that it needs, my playgrounds, Avago and everything? Is it just a government responsibility?
If you go to the constitution, yes, it is a state function. But I know they've got a rider who is saying, provided that the resources are
subject to the availability of resources.
And if you go to the Education Act, I think it's also to the same. But they've agreed that basic education where ECD has been, and we compliment the government or ministry, that it should be basic tech-funded
education.
And which is now a state responsibility.
Right.
But I think what is needed is the progressive meeting of that, and which we have been saying, perhaps there is need for a time period to be set that this needs to be done. But within that, like what has been happening, and it has not been government alone. I think government has been contributing about 50% with a study which was done by Ministry of Education and also the World Bank. It was seen that, I think in 2018, if I'm not mistaken, it was almost 50-50. But now it might be more, showing that it is not only government, but parents have been contributing much more than that. In terms of schools uniform, in terms of size books, in terms of building of classrooms,
right.
In terms of even ECD teacher support, because the majority of the teachers are being paid by the communities and not by government, even up to now. Yeah, so they've been doing, but I think the major issue, even with that money which is allocated to the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education, that it needs to come on time. It needs also to be utilized in an efficient and effective way. You will find that most of the budgets that we have been seeing from 2019 to 2020, the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education by September would have been received almost about 30%. The rest will go to about 70-80% is spent in October, November. That efficiency of utilization of funds and the effectiveness, I think, needs also to be a focus of education financing. That which is there needs to be spent well and timely. And that which
so it's not necessarily saying that we don't have the resources. Sometimes we have them, but our priorities and also the disbursement is also a letdown, right?
Yes, the disbursement and also the utilization. Yeah, you'll find that some money goes back to treasury.
Have we had examples of that within education financing?
I think in the infants, it was done mainly because of the delays. I think the ministry said it was because of wanting to comply with the procurement procurement procedure.
Okay.
And that, I think, was it 2019 or 2020, and that delayed the whole process.
About how much was returned to Treasury?
I don't have the actual figures, but I think it's a large chunk for infant education.
Okay.
But for other areas, it might be there, but I know.
Specifically for infant.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that's fine. Tinda, anything to
So
add?
you noticed that from your previous question to say is the education financing mostly to do with the government. From the setting in which Mr. Bono was elaborating to say we have parents that are part of the process. We also have funders that are doing something in terms of alleviating this kind of situation that we have. But when you look at the current situation that we have in which parents and communities are supporting the education sector or ECD per se, you will notice that our communities are mainly in poverty. With so many communities, at least 70% of our population being in the rural areas, you will notice that some of these indicators in which we are discussing to say we have high teacher-pupil ratio, they are worse off in the rural areas. The distance in which children are walking from school to their homes is actually long in the rural areas more than the urban areas. Right now, what we have is not sustainable. What GAO is going for is saying that domestic financing is the only sustainable way towards progressive realization of every child getting an education.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Just while we're still on that, we've talked about poverty, but one thing that we cannot run away from are disasters. 2018, Zimbabwe had to deal with Cyclone Idai. And then since 2021, we are dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic. You will find that we've had to change the way we do a lot of things. How do we ensure that our education financing also benefits each and every learner when there are disasters, Mr. Bono, like the COVID-19 pandemic? Because now we're talking of ICT, we're talking of online lessons, radio lessons, TV lessons. Are ECD children also benefiting from this? If not, what can we do in our financing so that they can also benefit?
I think of late, those disasters have challenged us as actors in education, that a lot needs to be done. Not only to be reactive, but also to be proactive. To put like disaster management policies in place which will not stop the learning or stop the accessing of services by children at that lower level. And this, I think, we need to put in place such strategies. What we have learned through COVID is that I think there have been some strategies which have been put in through use of the radio, through use of TV, and through use of small groups, just to let continual learning happen.
But when you're looking at your group,
I was coming now to that.
Right.
I was coming to that. That these have been specifically geared towards those who can read and learn on their own.
Right.
And this has not been specifically tailor-made for ECD, who need assistance, who need somebody to assist them to play and learn.
And also the infrastructure, like the playgrounds they're talking about and all that.
Yes, all those issues come in, and where it comes and where it matters most is the caregiver or the parents were the ones with the children.
Right.
Yet they had not been supported in order to assist the children in ECD. If you come to the radio, which was said supposed to be done for ECD, yes, it was done. It needed a radio, and most of the children are in rural areas. They didn't have the radio.
As I said, 70%.
Yeah, and most of the ECD, unlike the others, who will remember that if this is 10 o'clock, we are supposed to have this. ECD needs somebody, but the caregivers, the parents, the mother and father are busy trying to make a living for them. So you'll find that most of the ECDs did not benefit much out of that. And I think what we need is now, as ECD actors, to say in such a kind of disaster, we need programs that are geared towards and focused towards the caregivers who are parents and the caregivers who are in the area. And for that to be supported by both online and offline solutions.
All right. So as we round up, unfortunately, I can say that we actually need an hour just talking about this, even more. But what would you recommend when it comes to the ECD financing in the country? What are some of your recommendations? I'll start with you, Tinda. If you didn't intervention for the previous question, you can also throw that in, and then also your way forward, because we've talked about challenges. We cannot be complaining all the time. What are your recommendations in summation of this program?
So to add on to the conversation on COVID-19 and some of the ideas that has popped up in our ECD acting, you note that with ECD it's play-based learning. So that idea of interaction, of being in touch with manipulative tools, toys and interacting of the children at that level, that has been an emerging issue in the ECD sector. It's quite interesting to find out how children are learning now that we are trying to survive within the COVID-19 and the way that COVID-19 has changed the way in which we interact, which is quite interesting when it comes to play-based learning, which is an important area for research on our part. So going on to recommendations, I think for us to really understand our context, we would need more as the ECD actors to research more and understand our context and ways that we can intervene to say how can we better ECD education financing and all. We have been working on a transnational project with two other countries, networks within Lesotho and Malawi. It is NEGDO and ECDC Malawi. So we have been working towards influencing policy on the regional level in order to influence other networks that are coming up within the region to say, can we have one voice in influencing ECDE policy? So we are engaging policy forums like the SADC Parliamentarians Forum, as well as the African Union ECDE structure, to say how can we have a legal framework, a policy that could speak to the whole region, a working platform in which we could learn and collaborate together in order to influence policy at that level. Mr. Bunu, your recommendations?
I think it needs to start at the school level. That financing for ECD and education in general needs to be school-based. When they are making their school development plans, ECD needs to have the priority and the highest cap within that. In terms of infrastructure, in terms of furniture, in terms of wash facilities, in terms of this play materials that she has been mentioning, and in terms of the play equipment within that the school managers and the school development committees and the parents need to see the importance of ECD and be supported using the fund. And then when it comes to the district and provinces, we need in-school inspectors who are for ECD, so that they can even see the value. And also not only that, even at head office level, would want to see a director of impact who is at decision-making level. So we are saying decision-making towards ECD, one needs to be strengthened. And once that is done, then it can be supported by the dollar sign. And that's the first thing. Two, we need the Ministry of Finance and Economic Development to be supporting more education and specifically ECD. And to have a conscious mind and our parliamentarians to demand what is supposed to be put there. And also the oversight institution to be supervising, and like the portfolio committee on education, through the honorable chair who's there and who have been doing a sterling job, to continue to monitor that there is more efficient and effective use of the available funds, and to demand also more allocation to that. But also is that we need also external support, the donor funding. You'll find in Zimbabwe, we are not as funded as like other countries. I think from about 2-3 weeks ago, I was in Malawi and Lesotho. You'll find that World Bank is pouring a lot of money in Malawi, and you'll see that UNICEF is supporting heavily in Lesotho. But both organizations in Zimbabwe are not doing as much as what is happening there in terms of ECD. So we would want also those to actually increase rather than having diminishing support in dollar terms for ECD.
Right. They say a stitch in time saves 9. And so if we start now investing in our education from an ECD level, we are able to build a bigger and brighter and happier future, a future that, we are able to build a better people, a people that can take Zimbabwe forward in future. Unfortunately, that's all the time that we had for this show. Thank you so much, Mr. Bunu and Tendai, for joining me for this conversation.
Thank
It
you,
was a
Brian.
pleasure having you. Thank you.
Great. Join me again next week as I bring another episode of The Wise On, the show for the youth and the young at heart. For now, it's me, your host, Brian Marvin Casey Tole, saying good night, stay safe, COVID-19 is real.
This is the hottest station in the nation. Proudly ZFM Stereo. ZFM Stereo. ZFM Stereo. ZFM Stereo.